We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share this video with your family and your friends if you want to support this college football rebel outpost channel with a donation. Hit the $ where you make a comment and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody. And that even include the Iowa Hawkeyes because it's pig week. It's pig week. Minneapolis, Minnesota, Saturday night, NBC, Iowa versus Minnesota. So even, especially, the Hawkeye fans are invited into the studio. Even the evil Badger fans who report just came a couple minutes before we came on live. Brett McMurphy, Action Network, reports that Tyler Van Dyke, the starting quarterback of the Wisconsin Badgers, is out for the season. Hopefully, we're all hoping for a minor setback, for a great comeback for Tyler Van Dyke and the Wisconsin. Well, for Tyler Van Dyke, I cannot wish that for the Wisconsin Badgers. In fact, it's coming home. It's coming from Madison to Minneapolis. It's coming home. Welcome, everybody. It's Monday, September 16th. We're going into week 4. We're going to do a quick thank you, Kerry Gold Knowles. An early peak Cloak and Dagger member. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. With that early peak membership, you can go into our YouTube channel and watch the early peak membership only episodes. We dropped one today. Kerry Gold Knowles, you are hereby knighted, Cloak and Dagger. We thank you, Kerry. Appreciate the generosity. We dropped episode 47 this morning. If you are a member and if you haven't watched it yet, you should probably go and watch it. We are going to talk about that in our monologue. And we're not going to wait too long to talk about it. In fact, we're going to lead off with that. We're going to lead off with that story. And then we're going to recap week 3. We're not quite going to look into week 4 games yet. We're going to do that Tuesday. Make our selections Wednesday. And then we're going to talk about the latest when it comes to the Pac-12 rebuild. What we have been told here at Peek Around the Corner just early this afternoon. There has been some news on that front. Air Force, according to Pete Thamel, Air Force has emerged as a serious target to be added to the American Athletic Conference. Air Force had emerged in conversations as a potential AAC ad in recent months, prior to the Pac-12 taking 4 Mountain West schools last week. And as you know, in the Holy Smokes Theater, we did have Air Force as the 6th Mountain West team on the stage, the furthest to the left. It doesn't quite look like they're going to make it into the new PAC conference. And the question is, what was that 5th team standing between Air Force and Colorado State, UNLV? Are they going to make it? We believe they are still a target. In fact, the 4 targets are Memphis, Tulane, UNLV, and UTSA. That is what we were told early this afternoon. We're going to go over that. We have got a lot to go over. And that during some time here, I know there was a John Wilner article written about Commissioner Kliakov could have had the opportunity to present a plan to incorporate the Mountain West schools, some of them, just in case they were going to lose Oregon, Washington, and the Four Corners schools, and that California, Stanford would have gotten more money to do this deal, to stay with Oregon State, Washington State, and the top of the Mountain West schools. I'm, first of all, in my strong opinion, it wouldn't have mattered. California, Stanford were not going to stay. If Oregon, Washington, and the Four Corners schools leave and they got a little bit more money, unequal. To me, it's a story that, okay, it probably was true. It probably is true how John Wilner reported it. And maybe Kliakov should have presented California and Stanford and should have been aggressive, but I don't think it would have mattered. Number 1. Number 2. And then I'll get on with the show. But there is something I want to say about this. Number 2. I'm going to try to not go in a rant. Number 2, if that story is true, then that means Washington State and Oregon State were making backup plans, which is fine. It's what they're supposed to do. But you had the president of Washington State going out there and saying, we're going to get a media deal. It's going to be great, la da 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 da. And I'm sitting here in the studio day after day after day telling you all through our Arizona State Money Perch and all our connections, we're telling you that the Pac-12 is not getting any deals in front of them. They are in trouble, and the Big 12 is favored to poach the Pac-12, and I'm getting raked over the coals from some guy who went to the school of Wharton who can make charts and his peon buddy and everything go. And John Canzano is calling me a carnival barker. The truth of the matter is everybody was making plans because everybody knew that, everybody that was willing to tell you the truth, that wasn't playing suck up to their audience, everybody knew that the Pac-12 was in trouble. Everybody knew that the Pac-12 was in trouble. In fact, the reporters were being actually not overly aggressive. They were not in part of an endeavor plot. They were actually being a little kind in their reporting. It was worse than what they were saying. Water over the bridge, kind of, sort of. So that report coming out now, I read it and I'm like, wouldn't have mattered, and it would have been pretty cool if someone would have reported that at the time. Like, give people a peek around the corner. But anyway, so I'm not going to go over that anymore. There is a story out there in regards, and I'm not going to spend any time on it today. It's not my reporting. I'm not going to show you the article. If you have a subscription, you can go into it. Some reporting from Clemson's Tiger Illustrated and Florida State 247 about a week or 2 weeks ago. Basically, the story is that during these media negotiations that are going on, that we said that was going on between the ACC and ESPN, triggered by the composition clause that we told you we reported on, that there might be an option of where Florida State and Clemson stay in the conference, go back to the ACC, might get a bigger revenue cut if they do so. This is coming from Tiger Illustrated, and also they're possibly in negotiations officially when it comes to maybe making a settlement deal with the ACC to get out of the conference. But if they do so, that number is going to be really, 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 really high. But anyways, all that is probably true. All that is probably true. I don't have direct knowledge of any, nobody has told me that there is negotiations going on that Clemson and Florida State might get a bigger revenue cut in these new negotiations that are going on. No one has told me that, but good reporters are saying it, or possibly it's in the mix. It's in the mix. And I don't have any reason not to believe it. Here is kind of like the elephant in the room. And then I promise you, we're going to get into our show. There's so many things going on in college football. But the elephant in the room is, and nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to say it but me. I mean, I don't want to say it, but somebody has to say it. You know, I come into this studio every day knowing that I'm going to upset pretty much all of you every single day, either with my selections, with my picks, with my takes, and with my reporting, with my singing. My jokes, my no cheese on a burger. If I'm going into this every day knowing I'm going to upset every single one of you every day. Other people go into their jobs when they're talking about college football, and I swear to you, I think they want to make everybody happy coming out of the room. It's not what we do here. This college football YouTube channel is not for everybody. It may not be for anybody. I may have 0 subscribers in another 2 months from now. There's a chance of that. The elephant in the room is, it's Clemson and Florida State know what you know. Florida State, Clemson knows. The important question is not when, it's how. And they also know that they're not the top targets. 2 very valuable schools. 2 schools that are going to get where they need to be because they're too valuable not to. They're going to get the resources to be able to compete at the highest level. I've been saying this for months. But the road to the Big Ten and the SEC since June 15th, when we said that Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey left the Holy Smokes Theater, and we were being honest with you, people, being honest with Florida, I forget the name of the Florida State website, whatever that big one is, that was being, their subscribers were being told a bunch of outlandish stuff. The truth of the matter is that the Big Ten and the SEC said, slow down, you move too fast. We're not interested right now. And if something would happen, it wouldn't be, Florida State and Clemson would not be the top targets. Clemson and Florida State need a complete bomb to go off in the ACC. And they know that. So, look, if Florida State really had a wink and a nod, under the table handshake, a contract written in invisible pen with the SEC or the Big Ten, if Florida State had that, do you think they would be even negotiating with the ACC in their new media contract? You don't think Florida State would have signed some sort of check by now? Do you think all this stuff would be going on if the reports are true? Of course not. Of course not. That's the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is Florida State and Clemson are the 2 big football brands in the ACC. Valuable brands that are going to be able to get to where they need to get eventually, some way, somehow. And maybe these negotiations with the ACC, if it works out, if everybody agrees, if they get a higher revenue share, if they get a little bit more money, they're going to have the resources that they need to compete at the highest level. Maybe not other things. Maybe not the exposure, but the revenue. They're going to get there. But if the people who've been telling you that everything's done, they know exactly where they're going, they've already been approved by the SEC presidents, they've already been approved by the Big Ten presidents, everything's done, you've heard that over, now you're not hearing it quite as much, but you heard it over and over and over and over and over again. If all that was true, things wouldn't be playing out the way they are now. The matter of the fact is, I told you the truth on June 15th, in weeks before when I was setting the table, when I was trying to give examples, and Brett McMurphy told the truth. Ross Dellinger told the truth. Heather Dennis told the truth. Peter Thamel told the truth. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Negotiations, I do not have direct knowledge. Nobody has told me. None of the sources, PATC, nobody. Chatter behind the curtain. Nobody has said to me, Greg, they are working on a possibility of Florida State and Clemson staying in the ACC while receiving more money. I know nothing about it other than a couple of reputable, good, credible websites, reporters have reported on it in the last couple weeks, including today. That's all I know. All of you probably know more than I do. I have no information other than to say if it's true, and it probably is. Don't you think that everything else that was told to you in the last 6, 7, 8 months by some other people was completely, once again, bogus? Okay. Now, let's get to the story that I went and did an episode 47 on. Early Peak, Cloak and Dagger, episode 47. And again, I need patience. I need patience from the PATC community because there are people, this is the first time they've ever watched the show. To those who've been following me since 2014 and everything in between. So please be patient. BTM is short for Big Ten Man. BTM and his associates are people sitting on the money perch across the country. They're the ones who were able to give me the USC story. And I talked about it in the Los Angeles Times article. The term BTM is in there quite a few times. BTM is the gentleman who I was able to get the PJ Fleck story. If you don't know about the PJ Fleck story, that was also put in the Los Angeles Times. Where in 2016 in December, we said that Tracy Claeys was going to get fired 9 days from now and PJ Fleck was going to be target number one. And it happened 4 hours off the 216-hour time clock that we had set. It was a major story in Minnesota 247. That was BTM. BTM was the one who told me, and I was able to break the Notre Dame hockey to the Big Ten, men's hockey. And a million other little stories. By the way, BTM I used to put out posts on my account, Twitter account at the time, now X account, BTM saying this, BTM saying this. I used to go out and have sushi and Sapporo beer, and he'd give me information, and I would put it out. And I was transparent. He paid for the sushi. He paid for the Sapporo beer, a Japanese beer made by German brewery, master brewer, decades and decades, maybe 100 years ago. I don't know. I don't know the whole story. Whatever. Doesn't matter. The thing is, now I do not put out BTM stuff on my X account. I just use this YouTube channel. And we go that route. I am going to put out this this text message he gave me, and probably won't be today either. Maybe tomorrow. But those watching the show are going to be the second ones to hear it. The first ones were members of our show. Let me read you the text message. This was last Wednesday. And I'm going to read every word of it. It's short. I consider it highly significant because I'm not look, you guys don't know who he is, so obviously, and you got, a lot of you haven't been following me. A lot of you don't even know the PJ Fleck story. A lot of you don't even know the USC story. A lot of you don't. This is a gentleman that also helped me with the Colorado. We knew where the, partly, we also got it from another place too, but where the money perch was with Colorado, where they ended up on May 17th and May 24th, Newport, California, Boulder, Colorado. We also had inside information because BTM, he's in almost every story, not all of them. I consider this highly, highly, highly significant. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can say, how can he possibly know that? And we're going to have to wait and see. We're probably going to have to wait and see for a few years. But I'm going to post this on X eventually. This is what BTM said in a text message last week. September 11th. BTM. Lots of different roads lead Miami towards the Big Ten between 2026 and 2029. Difficult to project all those roads being closed off to Miami. University of Miami is who the Big Ten presidents want as part of their next expansion, and there won't be any objections being raised from media and money interest. Now, he would mostly know about the money interest because he was the one who we made it real clear in our reporting in the spring and early summer of 2022 that the money interest was not only on board with USC, but they were letting everybody know in different ways that they wanted Kevin Warren to get this done. In one of the ways was giving me the story. So, lots of different roads lead Miami towards the Big Ten between 2026 and 29. Difficult to project all those roads being closed off to Miami. University of Miami is who the Big Ten presidents want as part of the next expansion, and there won't be any objections being raised from media and money interest. Okay. Now, thank you, Terry Kane. Appreciate the super chat. Thank you for your incredible generosity. Let me get back to let me because we've talked since. And again, I've explained this in the early peak episode of this morning. There is a whole lot of variables. There is a ton of things we can't possibly know. Nobody knows how all this is going to go. Even BTM, obviously. But what he is telling me, and what I had the okay to put out there is, it really doesn't matter about the dominoes falling before Miami, because there will be dominoes falling before Miami. And it doesn't matter the dominoes falling after Miami. Miami is on an island unto its own. It's like the Miami Hurricanes are in the eye of the Big Ten expansion hurricane. They're not really, whatever happens, they're not really a part of. There is money interest support. There is Big Ten presidents support. There is media partners support. Now, Miami doesn't control its own destiny. I mean, What if something magically happens and Notre Dame and North Carolina both say, we want to go to the Big Ten and they're 19th and 20th members? Okay, then BTM is going to be wrong if the Big Ten chooses not to go beyond 20, right? But basically, unless something crazy, like Big TM says Miami is going to be wanted, no objections, the SEC isn't interested. Miami is the certain piece that stands basically in its own island. Now we have, over the last year, we have mentioned Miami, and we've talked about it because I'm continuing being told, like the chatter behind the curtain, which is not BTM, the chatter behind the curtain. Yeah, Big Ten, they like Miami. The national advertisers, they would like to get Miami. All that is the chatter behind the curtain. This is BTM. Completely different. BTM is not the chatter. And so we've been talking about Miami, possibly, Big Ten, whatever. If we're just speculating on the rest of this. What if, because I had some Florida State fans who are interested in the future of their school, who were our early Peak Cloak and Dagger members, and I thank them so much. And they watched the show, and they asked me, Greg, doesn't this kind of possibly help Florida State to get into the Big Ten? It could. It actually could. It actually could. So I'm not looking at, because of the blend, right? We talked about the blend. Miami serves the grease the skids of another, and somebody could help grease the skids of Miami, and that Florida State Miami thing, that could work. Or it might be Miami, North Carolina. Might not be a connective tissue. I think there's going to have to be. I don't think this is necessarily bad news for really anybody. Some would disagree. But I would take this, but I'm not a Miami Hurricane fan, and I'm not walking in your shoes, and I don't give money to the program. I don't buy tickets to the program. I don't walk in Miami Hurricane fan shoe. So all I can say that from everything that I've heard, this is not speculation. This is not putting something on the sports book. This is everything that I've heard is like what BTM said. It would surprise a whole lot of people if the University of Miami is not a Big Ten university by the end of the decade. You can hold PATC to this one. Not speculation. BTM does not say something like this unless he firmly, absolutely believes in it. He's been told it, a lot of different angles to it. Now, of course, the Big Ten, the Miami are not having first party talks. No way, no how. There's no lawyers involved. It's not going to happen imminently. So all that is completely off the board. None of that is happening. A lot of variables in the there's dominoes that have to fall before Miami. But Miami is the piece that's going to be least affected by all these dominoes and pieces falling all around them. So that is the story that, and of course, there's more to it. We're going to hold back on it. We'll push the envelope more as it becomes needed, because right now it's not needed. Right now there's nothing burning here. Nothing's imminent. Nothing is. So we're holding something back, and I do that for a couple of reasons. One, the sources The second, if someone brings me some information, like a lot of people do, and if it ties into what I've held back, then I know that person's onto something and not just on something. That's how we have our methods. So that is the Early Peak Cloak and Dagger episode 47 information as of now. Now, we are going to get into recap of week number 3. Before we do so, and then we're going to get into the Pac-12. We've got new information early this afternoon on the Pac-12. We're going to get into it. We're going to go back into the Holy Smokes Theater. Recap week 3. The question is, was it Greg the Gold week in week 3? Did I turn it around? Did I turn it around? One and 9 the first week, an abomination. 6-6 the second week against the spread. Did Greg the Cooler, did Greg the Ice Age finally become Greg the Gold? Let's go! No, I did not. I did not become Greg the Gold. But I can tell you, the PATC community, you did so bad this week on your selections. You are now tied with Greg the Cooler. I went 6-6 this week. The PATC community went 3-9. Both of our records against the spread is 13 wins and 21 losses. Do you want me to go through the games? I got the Arizona State right, Alabama correct, Memphis correct, Oregon correct, Notre Dame correct, Indiana correct. The PATC community got 3 games right. Arizona State, Memphis, Texas A&M. The rest you got wrong. So. I'm 13-21. I'm still Greg the Ice Age. But the PATC community is the PATC Tundra. You have brought in a tundra. You have brought in a complete cold landscape. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about the games in coming up week 4. And then Wednesday we're going to make the selections. And this is going to be the week that I'm going to turn in the Greg the Gold. And I don't know what's going to happen to you guys. You guys voting was absolutely crazy last week. I hope you all get it together, PATC community. I hope you get it all together. So I've had 2 weeks of 6-6. I'm tired of kissing my sister. I'm tired of the mediocrity. That's not going to lift me out of my incredibly, unbelievable, incompetent start at 1-9. It's not going to lift me up. I need to turn it around in week 4. Kerry Gold knows against the spread in 15-15 Big 12 Mafia Pick'em. Moen set it up that way. Yeah, they have a good setup there, Kerry. Good, you're 15-15. I tell you what, you're kicking my butt and you're kicking the PATC community butt. No question about it. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Seminoles. Kerry Gold knows. Greg the Iceberg that cried woof Randy Taylor, brr. 6-6 is great. 6-6 is great. For Greg. Okay. We'll turn it around. We are going to turn it around. So, let's go through just a little bit about these games last week. We did not have a Saturday night show. I could not come on live on the air. I was incredibly busy with life stuff. So let's just go through the ACC real quick. We'll go through the 4 power conferences. We'll talk about a little bit about the top of the power of the G5 schools. And we're going to talk football here, and then we're going to go into the rebuilt Pac-12, the latest news that we have received. And it was early this afternoon. So keep your head on a swivel. Stay with us. The ACC, of course, Wake Forest got crushed. Boston College lost a close one on the road. Man, they are competitive. Miami goes all over Ball State 62-0. Memphis 20, Florida State 12. It sounds like DJ Ungale is going to be the starter next week. I think they've already announced that. Oh, it's on the depth chart. It's not official, of course. Memphis, some good. Of course, it's great that they won a road game against a power conference school. They are right at the top of the G5. They're right in the hunt, right? For that top G5 conference championship berth to the playoffs. But there is some stuff about that game. I look back at it. A little worried about Memphis. Little worried about, the quarterback who's had a great career at Memphis. Man, he threw up some flutters out there. I'm not sure. I don't know if Memphis they have a lot of senior leadership. Running back's a senior. Quarterback's a senior. Top receiver is a senior. They've got seniors all over the place. I still don't know if they've got the horses to be the G5 representative. I know a lot of people have them as their favorite, especially with winning on the road against the Seminoles. I can't get there. North Carolina State has been a huge disappointment to me. I don't even want to talk about it. They have a quarterback situation now. We'll talk about it tomorrow and Wednesday. Georgia Tech rolls. Pittsburgh defeats West Virginia. We're going to talk more about this when we go into the Big 12 slate. Coach Narduzzi got fined for his comments at the end of the game, saying not only did we have to beat West Virginia, but we had to beat the refs. We will go into that game more, the backyard brawl, when we go through the Big 12. Duke wins a close one. They're 3-0. They're winning their games. They're getting it done. North Carolina rolls big. Virginia Tech rolls big. Virginia loses. They were ahead in this game, but they lose 27-13. They got 0 points in the second half of offense, and they're those California Bears. Talked about them before the start of the season. I got them going to a bowl game. California Bears, they finally have an above average offense at Berkeley. Finally, above average offense at Berkeley. Coach Wilcox has got that going. Mendoza, the quarterback, some good running backs. Of course, Jaden Ott trying to get him going. Here is the Big 12. Let's get into the Big 12. Arizona State, 31-28. We did a watch party. If you missed it, we did a live watch party. We had so much fun. So much fun. We're going to be doing watch party Friday and Saturday next week as well, next weekend. Kansas State looked excellent. Avery Anderson ran all over the place. Dylan Edwards, some big chunk yards, big play, big touchdown, big punt return. Dylan Edwards, the transfer from Colorado. Arizona State, my pick to win the Big 12, looked, at least for one night, on Friday night, as your future Big 12 champion. Kansas goes down, not good. UNLV, I'm not saying UNLV is not good. I'm just saying not a good game by the Rock Chalk Jayhawks. UNLV 23, Kansas 20. We have more information about UNLV coming up here in a little bit. Utah 38, Utah State 21. Oklahoma State rolls big. Cincinnati wins 2-1. I love Sorsby. 66-21. Texas Tech scoring big. West Virginia goes down 38-34. They were up 10 points. 10 points. Late in the fourth quarter. And Pittsburgh pulls it out. Eli Holstein made some plays where, with his legs, where the Mountaineers just could not tackle him. We talked about, I predicted West Virginia to come in sixth place in the Big 12. The reason why I did not have them higher was for two reasons. One, their secondary. I talked about it all off season. Number two is that I needed to see Garrett Green become more efficient before I believed it. Neither has happened. The secondary is brutal at West Virginia. We're going to be honest on this show. We are going to be honest. It is one thing for a quarterback to get hot, to make a lot of plays, a lot of completions. It's a whole other thing when the quarterback throws a ball, it's fluttering in the air, the receiver catches it, and there's no defender around the receiver. There is no challenge to the catch. There is no quick tackle to the reception. That's what the Mountaineers secondary is doing right now. People are catching the ball with complete comfort, knowing that they're not going to get hit right away. It happened too often. 38, 34, I don't know what's going to happen. Because West Virginia, man, they play some good quarterbacks. They're going to be playing some good quarterbacks in the Big 12 that are better than Eli Holstein at this point in their career. West Virginia has a lot of good things going for them. They've got talent. They've got some really good offensive linemen. They got screwed on a call and a holding call by their great old lineman. I forget his name, Wyatt Millimum, something like that. But he got screwed on that call. Absolutely screwed. West Virginia, it should have been a touchdown. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. Neil Brown, he's going to be on the heat again. The hot seat, we'll see what happens. Baylor, 31-3 over Air Force. Colorado wins 28-9 over Colorado State. And in the game that I thought was going to be the most exciting game of the entire slate, it was the most exciting game of the entire slate. Josh Hoover versus RJ Harvey. It was spectacular. Both came out to play. Great game. TCU. Everything's still ahead of TCU. Okay, so they're 0-1 in the Big 12. The Big 12 is going to be one smashed up mash unit by the end of the year. It's not over for TCU. In UCF, the only way I've been able to explain UCF during the whole offseason is it's a grown man's team. It's a grown, you know what the word I want to say next? Man's team. Houston, 33, Rice, 7. BYU, 34-14 over Wyoming. So Good start to BYU, and 3-0, 2-0 on the road. Excellent start for the BYU Cougars. Okay, let's get right into the Big Ten. Wisconsin got hammered, but the worst part of the story is Tyler Van Dyke is out for the year. And I'm gonna be nice here today. Let's watch the development of Braden Locke. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a believer right now, and I said that during the offseason. I said that we did a watch party on this game. We were live when Tyler Van Dyke went down, and you could tell from our vantage point, he was carted off. And it ended up that he's out for the season. But at the point, it was like, God, this is really going to hurt Wisconsin this year. Not just this game, but for the rest of the season. We'll see if Mr. Locke can prove PATC wrong. But I think Wisconsin is in a lot of trouble. Oregon goes big over Oregon State. I thought this was going to be the Ducks coming out party, and they did just that. Dylan Gabriel was beautiful. Michigan's got all sort of problems. Michigan Wolverines, I'm going to put this up right now. News, Michigan will start Alex Orji over Davis Warren versus USC next week. Sharon Moore announced. They're already making the switch at quarterback. Already making the switch. Michigan is going to be a team that's going to get picked off a couple times by programs in the Big Ten that are considered in the middle, right? They're going to get beat a couple times. I don't know by who. Maybe the Gophers in a couple weeks. Somebody is going to beat Michigan that doesn't historically beat Michigan all that often. Purdue loses 66-7. I said that Purdue was going to get their doors blown off, but I was not expecting this. This was the worst loss in Purdue Boilermaker history at home. The worst loss in like 130 years. 66-7. And Marcus Freeman was merciful. It could have been more. The Purdue's offensive line, this is their biggest offensive line they've ever had. The Spoilermakers have put out an offensive line that looks like the offensive lines of Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. And Purdue has always had a smaller offensive line. This year they have a big one, and they're terrible. They can't move. They got beat constantly. I don't know what's going to happen at Purdue this year. Nebraska looks great, but they got their first test Friday night. Illinois, buckle up. Nebraska versus Illinois. I think that's at Nebraska. Big Ten contest. Illinois 30-9. They are rolling. Again, they play Nebraska next Friday night. Michigan State rolls. Oh, wait a second here. My beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers 27-0 over Nevada. Nevada that almost beat SMU. Nevada that lost to 3 points the next week. Minnesota dominated the back-to-back shutouts for the first time since 1962. Minnesota versus Iowa next Saturday night. We're going to be doing a watch party. NBC, I hope you join us. The Floyd of Rosedale sits in the trophy case at Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and there it shall stay. Washington loses to Washington State. The Cougars. Holy smokes. Washington Huskies lose 24-19 at the very end of the game. Iowa 38-21. It took them a while, but they got going. Caleb Johnson is running like a thoroughbred. Caleb Johnson he's got the statistics right now as a top 3, top 4 running back in the nation. Breaking tackles like crazy. There could be an emerging superstar on the offensive side of on the line of scrimmage for the Hawkeyes. Indiana 42, UCLA 13. Now, Curtis Rourke, we've talked about him for 2 years. He was the MAC Player of the Year 2 years ago. He got injured at the end of that year. Last year was a recovery year. He went in the portal, and I kept an eye on him, and bam, he was picked up quickly by Cignetti. The new coach knew exactly what he wanted to do. He got Rourke. They've got some good receivers out there in Indiana, and UCLA was not competitive. UCLA might not win a Big Ten game this year, but don't take away anything from the Indiana Hoosiers. In fact, I should have taken a picture of it, but according to, I don't know, was it ESPN Power Rankings or ESPN FPI or some algorithm out there, Indiana Hoosiers have a 23% chance to go to the college football playoffs. 23% chance to go to the college football playoffs. The Indiana Hoosiers. The schedule sets up well. Man, oh man, oh man. Indiana, the Hoosiers, they are excited. Northwestern wins big. Maryland defeats Virginia. Billy Edwards throws a whole bunch of passes again. Pretty interesting what's going on in Maryland. They go to 2-1. Let's quickly go to the SEC. We'll go to your comments about week 3. We'll talk about, we're going to talk about the rebuilt Pac-12 here in a moment. We got some new information. The SEC, Georgia. You looked absolutely brutal. They were bad Saturday. That was that was not good, Georgia. I don't know. That was one of Carson Beck, the shakiest performance. His feet were all over the place. He could not stop dancing in the pocket. He was not comfortable. I don't know why he wasn't. It was a brutal performance. They were very, very fortunate to win that game. I think they're going to bounce back. I believe they're going to bounce back. They should bounce back. Of course they're going to bounce back. But Georgia's got that game. They played. That was a performance that was outside of any expectations. And it has shook me. I don't know if it has shook any Bulldog fans in the chat room. Let me know. Texas is, well, they're the number 1 team in the country by the AP. And they should be the number 1 team in the country. They have absolutely looked spectacular. Quinn Ewers goes out with an abdominal injury. Arch Manning comes in and he sets the world on fire. Texas can do no wrong. Quinn Ewers is going to come back. Give him a couple weeks. Texas, the Longhorns, are the number 1 team in the country. Now, Buckeyes might have something to say about that. Georgia might come back and say something about that. But right now, it is Texas. Alabama rolls over Wisconsin, 42-10. Ole Miss, we got to wait to see when they play, a competitive team, but they are absolutely rolling. Missouri squeaks out a victory. Tennessee wins big, of course. Oklahoma wins again. I think we got the Sooners pegged correctly. They're going to have a decent year, but they're not going to be able to elevate themselves into the top 5 or 6 teams in the SEC. Not this year. I don't think they have it. As LSU, South Carolina, we did a watch party. I have made my feelings known on this game. I don't want to get in any more trouble. I do think that pick 6 call, that should have been a pick 6. But South Carolina had a whole bunch of more opportunities to win that game after that unfortunate call. So LSU deserves the victory, 36-33. South Carolina is a whole lot better than I thought they were going to be. I do not know the injury report yet on Lenora Sellers, the starting quarterback. They're going to need him. They're going to need him for the Gamecocks to go bowling, because I don't think Bobby Ashford's going to be able to lead the Gamecocks to a bowl game. I don't think he's going to be able to lead them to 6 victories. So hopefully Mr. Sellers is back quickly for the Gamecocks. Texas A&M 33, Florida 20. That brought on rumors about there being a Board of Trustees meeting at Gainesville, and they were about to make a firing of Coach Napier. None of that turned out to be true, but Billy Napier, without a question, is on the hottest of the hot seats. Billy Napier, I think maybe Sam Pittman in another month, and possibly Neil Brown in another month. Arkansas 37, UAB 27, Georgia State 36, heartbreaker for Vanderbilt. If they could have won that game, they'd have been 3-0, and there would have been dreams of a bowl game. That one hurts. Auburn 45, New Mexico 19, Toledo 41, Jason Candle. Mississippi State at the bottom of the SEC. Tucker Gleason, I wanted to show you this. Tucker Gleason, 23 of 38, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns. Toledo also ran for 169 yards against Mississippi State. A whole lot of people have been talking about Jason Candle. Mr. Bearcat, Steve Mr. Bearcat, every offseason he's talking about Jason Candle should get a power job, and he's absolutely correct. But he hasn't gotten one yet, and that's good news for Toledo. But man, that guy can flat out coach. Look at his record against power conference teams. John Teal, if California goes undefeated, can they go to the Big Ten? No, they're not going to the Big Ten. They're not going undefeated, but I think they're going bowling. Amax says, quit saying that, Greg. I said something. I said something that I should not have said. I screwed up. Yes, I'm saying the jug. The little brown jug. But we can't worry about... We're not talking about that. We got laser focus. We're laser focused on the pig of Rosedale. That's it. That's all we're focusing on. USC is beating them, beating Michigan. Verdon, Sheldon, Witter. There is no PAC anything. This is Mountain West Conference +2. I understand that, but Mountain West Conference +2 is not, I don't think is going to be able to cover it as well. I think it's going to be, if you're looking at it from that angle, it's going to be Mountain West Conference +2 plus something else. We'll talk about that here in another minute. Texas is number 1. Yeah, well, okay. Yeah. The Texas Longhorns fans do not want me to say the Longhorns are number 1. Or you hate the Longhorns, you don't want me to say it anymore. Either way, I'm going to be in trouble. But they are the best team in the country. LFG is actually predicting, LFG is actually predicting the Gophers. Holy smokes. Mr. Hoosier is in the house. Daniel Montcastle, Mr. 23% Montcastle. Daniel Montcastle's name is Mr. 23%, and he absolutely deserves it. And all the Hoosier fans out there, this has been a long time coming, and this is the greatness. We're going to get to the Pac-12 in a moment. Just let me finish this thought. We're going to get into more the information that we have received on the Pac-12. Then we're going to get to your phone calls. It's been a long monologue, but we've had a lot of information to share. We're not even done yet. The greatness of the expanded playoffs. A team like Indiana Hoosiers. 23% is better than my chances of being on time. No problem. The Indiana Hoosiers, no disrespect to Indiana or to the 95% of the programs out there. But if we still had a 14 playoff, no one would be talking about the Indiana Hoosiers squeaking into the playoffs. They'd be talking about them as, wow, that looks good. They're doing good. They're going to go to a good bowl game. They might get some momentum. Signetti's going to be able to go in the portal. That NIL at Indiana is blossoming, which it is. They're going to be able to get better high school recruits. Purdue is way down. Indiana's coming up. That's going to help some of those recruiting battles. On and on and on and on and on. If we still had a 14 playoff, but we have a 12-team playoff, what does that mean? That means the Indiana Hoosier fans have the absolute right to dream. Why not? That's what it was built for. To get on a run, to have a schedule, to get a Curtis Rourke in there, to have wide receivers that other schools went after, but they could not get. Signetti brought in transfers from his really good program in Virginia in the name of James Madison. This is what it was built for. So yes, the Indiana Hoosiers, a lot of excitement. Okay. And then, of course, you have Lee saying Indiana has no chance. Well, we're going to take it week by week by week. Okay, let's get to another story. And then we'll get to your phone calls. I know the monologue has been long. The evil badger, Ryan Willie. Well, hopefully Locke can get it together. TVD is done with an ACL tear. We're going to observe the development of Braden Locke. He's going to be able to get all those reps, right? So he might be able to develop. But man, they put a lot of time into Tyler Van Dyke. They put a lot of money into Tyler Van Dyke. A lot of NIL money into Tyler Van Dyke. Wisconsin's trying to build some momentum. Longo and Luke Feckel and the new offense, and they get the quarterback they wanted. And he actually, if you watch the game, the first couple plays, he made some plays. I was like, whoa! And then he got injured, which isn't fair. And college football is not a fair type of thing. It's brutal. And he went down, but I don't know. He's going to be back next year, so the Coach Feckel has somebody who maybe he can establish something, but they got to get something going this year. Braden Locke is going to have to develop. It's something that we're going to have to witness. Pac-12. The title, if you look at the title screen, those are the four programs that we have been told is the target list for Teresa Gould, Oregon State, Washington State, and the 4 newcomers that just came along. Now, that list isn't going to surprise anybody, but we received the information that this was the list. So I am going to let you know what we heard, but I just want to make it, it's official that this is the 4 teams beyond speculation. UNLV. The UNLV is being worked on. And I think the chatter behind the curtain is that they're leaning that UNLV is going to become a member of the new Pac-12. That there's too many forces supporting it. It's going to get done. It's not done. At least as far as they know, it's not done. I'm telling you what I'm hearing, what I'm able to say. UNLV sounds like they are going to get in. It's a story we're going to have to watch. There's a lot of politics involved. And allegedly, possibly, I'm not going to go into it. But allegedly, there's politics involved. Memphis and Tulane. Tulane is, from what we have been told, is pretty much on board. But it's important we are being told very clearly and very strongly, Tulane needs to know what is they need information. I don't think this is going to get done this week. Right? I don't think. Now, I hear everybody saying it's going to be done sooner than later. Some people say it's imminent. I'm being told that Tulane needs to know everything. Like they need to know who's coming. Tulane and Memphis. That's going to help. That's going to help Tulane tremendously. But there is interest. Tulane is interested. Memphis is a whole other kettle of fish, and we've talked about it. They are interested, but they have their concerns. So as they're concerned on the travel. And again, we were told this afternoon that is kind of a piece that Memphis, are they going to get like a travel stipend? They're not, it's not like they're far, far away, but they're making this an issue. So Tulane is more on board than Memphis, but those are the top 2 targets. And it is worth it to Oregon State and Washington State to beat the Bushes, to do everything they can to get those 2 on board. Like, they are worth it to go the extra mile, to wait on it. So when we're talking 2 to 4 teams, because that's what the Oregon State Athletic Director said. We are being told it hinges on what's going on at UNLV, and of course the final decision of Memphis and Tulane. If Memphis and Tulane both say yes, and that's what they're hoping, and we're leaning that way here at Peek Around the Corner, And if they're able to get UNLV, if that can get worked out, then they are going to 4 additions, obviously. If Tulane and Memphis say yes, and the UNLV thing cannot be worked out, then they're staying at 2. 2 more additions. If Memphis and Tulane both get a sweeter deal from the AAC, if Pernetti comes, you know the AAC commissioner is talking to Tulane and Memphis, then it's going to come down to UNLV. And if that can't get worked out, if Tulane and Memphis can't get worked out, then we're going to the Texas 2-step with UTSA leading the way. And I just had a big conversation with somebody this afternoon, player behind the curtain. It's unknowable. We know the targets, but we don't know all what the target situation, because the AAC is a player in this. Pernetti is a player in this. They're going to try to recruit their own to stay in the conference. So Tulane and Memphis are playing the game. And from what we have been told, the chatter behind the curtain is it's a lean to yes. There's a lot of reservations, but it's a lean yes right now for Memphis and Tulane to go to the Pac-12. But it's definitely, this is not a 100% sure thing. Look, like today, what do you think Memphis and Tulane are dealing with? They're talking to both conferences, AAC and the Pac-12. And then this other story where Air Force is being targeted by the AAC. We talked about that earlier. Pete Thamel, sources, Air Force has emerged as a serious target to be added to the American Athletic Conference. And we know that Army and Navy is part of the American Athletic Conference. The American Athletic Conference, they're not going to give up on Memphis and Tulane because that would be a massive loss. A massive loss. To lose New Orleans to the new Pac-12, to lose it to San Diego State, Fresno State, to lose it to Oregon State and Washington State. They do not want to lose Tulane. So there's a battle of New Orleans going on. And I used that pun, it was intended. And Memphis is out there. They're not as willing as Tulane, but at least we'll see how Memphis plays us. Maria Hernandez Garcia is in the house and she's asking what's for dinner. Don Scruggs just said he has steak and rice. Nitwit, USF, Tulane, Memphis, Liberty, UTSA, UNLV. AMAX says Memphis and Tulane are using this to get a better deal in the AAC, and it might work out. In 1814, we took a little trip, along with Colonel Jackson, down to the mighty Mississippi. It is a bad deal for travel-wise, no question about it. But for brand power, and again, so let's bring this up, and then we're going to go to your phone calls. Okay? So the theory, now this is a theory out there. I have not heard this. Nobody has told me this. Let me repeat. This has not been told to me by anybody. BTM, the chatter behind the curtain. People are speculating this, and it sounds logical. What if? Now listen to me. What if Memphis and Tulane have been told, third-party talks, what if they are under the belief that the ACC is working out this contract, they're going to get something done, they might keep Florida State and Clemson, might give them more money, unequal revenue sharing, whatever is being reported by today by Tiger Illustrated and Florida State 247 a while ago. And what if they're being told, look, the ACC is going to get it together. We're going to continue on. We're not going to be expanding for a while. We're not imploding. What if Memphis and Tulane believes that, and they're willing to sign an extended long gore with the new Pac-12 conference? Remember, Scott Barnes, the athletic director of Oregon State, I believe it was him. It was either him or the commissioner, said in public, I believe it was Barnes. They said in public, you join this conference, you also have to bring got to bring everything, and you're going to sign a long-term gore. I don't know how long that is. It's not going to be 20 years. It's not going to be 10 years, but it's probably going to be 6 or 7 years. So if Memphis and Tulane, if they decide, one of the parts of their decision-making is the ACC going to implode in the next 12 months? It's hard to know, but if they are being told, no, it won't, if that's the tide, if that's what's going on, then that might push them to the new Pac-12. Or if that isn't happening, then that is something, Memphis and Tulane, they don't want to sign a gore. They want to keep themselves available. But if they're being told that something is in the works, and maybe there is, we know that the ACC presidents had some long meetings lately. We know that Jim Phillips and ESPN is in media negotiations. There are reports today that maybe, just maybe, Clemson and Florida State, while working on a settlement to get out of the conference, maybe at the same time, they're possibly working on a deal to stay in the conference, but they get more money. That's not coming from me. That's coming from a Clemson site, a Florida State site, beat writers. So is that playing into Memphis and Tulane's decision? We don't know. Anyways, let me open up the phone lines here. Talk anything about college football. Talk about last week's games. Last Saturday game, Friday, Thursday game. If you want to start talking about this coming up week game, go ahead. Let me know how you're feeling about your team. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, smash the like button.
Call from
BJ.
BJ is on the line. The floor is yours.
Hey, what's up, Greg? As always, appreciate it for having me speak on your platform.
You bet.
And with that being said, a couple things. Like I mentioned before the season started, right? My biggest fear is that the SEC and the Power 2 basically will occupy 9 spots, right, in the playoffs. 4 weeks is just 4 weeks into the season. I see that as not only like a realistic possibility, I think it is the most likely possibility. And the reason I say that, Greg, I'm watching these ESPN and these talking heads talk, and how they frame things, I look at. And they put more emphasis and more screen time to SEC wins and Big Ten wins over ACC and Big 12 wins. And I will hate to see that, but I think that's coming down the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it is quite interesting to see all the moving and shaking with the Pac-12. I think the new Pac-12 team with the proposed teams are a really solid conference. It's actually extremely comparable to the Big 12, in the sense that they're all kind of similarly teams and programs. From a financial standpoint, there's no outlier, which typically probably end up being a super competitive conference. And more competitive football is never a bad thing, in my opinion. I don't know what your views on that is, but I do think that based off the 4 teams that they're looking at to add to the 6 they already have, I think it'll be a pretty good, competitive, fun conference. UNLV showed us they can compete with, any Pac-12 team. I mean, any Big 12 team when they beat Kansas in a very highly competitive game. Memphis did their thing. San Diego State is pretty good. Fresno State is an amazing program. So I would co-sign seeing the 4 remaining teams hit the Pac-12. I think it'll be a pretty good conference. And lastly, about the Florida State, Clemson potentially staying, it's not the worst idea in the world. I think there have to be a lot of money given to Florida State and Clemson. I'm talking about at least $10 to $15 million more than everybody else. I don't know how other ADs would feel about that, because Florida State brought that up about 2 years ago, and it was shot down. It wasn't even voted on.
Yeah, I don't. So, Yeah, I don't know how North Carolina would feel about that.
Yeah. So it was shot down 2 years ago. So I don't. It's pipe dreaming. It's nice for Florida State and Clemson, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. But
yeah, I haven't had anybody tell me that it's happening. But there's been a couple, credible reports on it. So we're going to open up for speculation. If I do hear anything directly, I'll let everybody know. But yeah, right now I haven't heard anything like that. But it's interesting.
So, Greg, the last thing, do you think North Carolina would be one of the teams that try to get Florida State and Clemson to change their mind? Because it benefits them to keep the ACC together. And, from what I read, that their option number one is to keep the ACC together because they're a power player. If they go to the SEC or the Big Ten, they won't be a power player. And North Carolina will probably lose a lot of money from having all the right now they get a lot of conference games in the state of North Carolina. If they move away, no championship game will be held in Charlotte or any other North Carolina towns and cities. So in my opinion, it would benefit North Carolina to convince Florida State and Clemson to stay in the ACC.
There's a definite faction within North Carolina. Definite faction. A definite part of the fan base, part of the boosters that want North Carolina to stay in the ACC. But I don't think, from what I've recently been told, and I did a big live show on it, I think their new permanent chancellor is, when the time comes, I think he's ready to wheel and deal with the Big Ten and the SEC and get the best deal possible. So I think they know. I think they're under the belief, or at least the permanent chancellor now, I think they're under the belief that there is going to be movement. Maybe not now, maybe 4 or 5 years from now. We don't know. There's so many things going on, right? But I don't think they believe. I think North Carolina at some point is not going to be a member of the ACC. From what that is my strong belief.
So I got a question for you, Greg.
Yeah.
So you don't think, so you're thinking that they think that eventually they'll have to make a move. They're just not rushing the move.
They're not willing to go to court. They can't go to court. The Board of Governors has the power, so they're hamstrung there. But I did this. I did a big live show in North Carolina recently, and they are working it. I mean, they are working it. Not first party stuff, but they are working it. I think they have the same belief that Florida State and Clemson have, that at some point they want to get above the stratification line when it comes to media revenue, resources, exposure. I mean, I'm gonna look. Even if, let's just say the story is true, that there's going to be a deal where Florida State and Clemson, and I'm not even saying they're not reporting it like it's definitely going to happen. They're just saying these are one of the things that are being negotiated on. Okay. But what they're saying is it could be where there's a negotiation going on and Clemson and Florida State will get extra money, but then in exchange they'll drop the lawsuits and maybe the gourd gets shortened. Okay? Well, even if all that happens, I would heavily speculate that still isn't going to be good enough for Florida State and Clemson or North Carolina 6, 7, 8 years from now, because the biggest issue with the ACC, BJ, right now, beyond even bigger than the revenue, or I should not say that, really close to the biggest issue of revenue gap between them and the SEC and the Big Ten, is their exposure gap. It's starting to happen. Have you seen the schedule? The ACC, they're not getting on AB. They've got one game. I'm going to have to do a different show on it. But the exposure gap between the ACC and the SEC has exploded this year. And that's going to really rub people the wrong way. And that is going to continue. And that's something that Florida State and Clemson and they're not going to abide by that either. So I think, again, just saying what I think, BJ, I think at some point the top brands of the ACC are going to leave the conference. It might take a while, or it might be tomorrow, but I think they're going to leave at some point.
I can see that. And another thing I noticed too, as it pertains to that, Greg, it's like the marketing and promotion. Like, I watched the SEC game. It was on ABC at night. They have specific branding, SEC on ABC or something to that effect, where they didn't have that before with the ACC. Like when ACC teams played late night, there was no specific ACC branding on ABC. So that to me, that communicates to me that the shift is going to be there. They're going to go all in on the SEC boat, just like Fox it will eventually go all in on the Big Ten boat. If they were to pick up Notre Dame or Florida State or North Carolina, right? Just business sense, it just makes business sense to aggregate all that instead of having 3 and 4 conferences to pay out to. So I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. I just don't know how soon it'll happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are there's reports out there now saying, maybe they're talking settlement, but maybe they're talking about coming back to the ACC, and I have not heard any of that directly. I wish someone would tell me that, but every time I poke and prod, there's nothing there. So I don't have that information, unfortunately. I cannot come up here and say Now, maybe someday I will, but I've yet to come up here and say, we've got information, hot ball of action, there's settlement talk, da-da-da. I haven't gotten that, BJ. No one has told me that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, Greg. As always, stay blessed, my guy.
You got it. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Great call, BJ. Look, it's not from the lack of trying. I just don't have that. No one's told me that. So, could be going on. There could be a settlement tomorrow, and I'm not going to have the story.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Mr. Hawkeye is on the line. This week, the Golden Gophers, Hawkeyes, the rivalry continues. Holy smokes. The floor is yours.
Well, on that real quick, Floyd is coming home, but don't you dare say so. How about that?
What was that? The Floyd
I
is
said
coming
Floyd
home?
is coming home, but don't you dare say so, Greg. I don't want to hear Greg picking Iowa is going to win this.
I'm gonna. Can I be honest with you?
No, not if it means you're going to pick Iowa.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not taking Iowa. I'm
There we
taking the
go.
Golden Gophers, baby. Let's go!
It should be a good game. I think so.
It'll be a good game. Yeah.
You know, mostly I just want to call in and talk about the PAC situation, but a brief touch upon the ACC, if I may.
You go ahead. You got the floor.
We've seen a little bit. We know that they've had meetings. We know that they've said they're having negotiations with ESPN. And now we see Wake Forest willing to pay $1 million to get out of a deal that, unless something changes, they'd have to pay another P4 to replace it. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you got it up. Something is going on there. There's a lot of discussion going around, and quite frankly, a lot of reasonable, logical ideas from both sides. So it's just something right now I think we need to watch. But I'd tie this in that if we look at when they had that meeting, what we didn't know at the time was that this PAC situation was brewing.
Yeah.
But maybe they did. And maybe some of what they're looking into here in the East is something that the ACC has looked in as possibly needing as well. So, as we've seen these realignment situations over and over, once someone starts to move, other people, other parties, they have to react. We see it happen now at the AAC very directly. But maybe the ACC is also doing the same. But in terms of the PAC, I think what we all, at least this is my feeling on it, and I'll present it and people can think what they want on it. But for me, I look at it and say, okay, who has the true leverage in this? Who's the one that can sit there and get sold instead of having to do the selling? And for me right now, it's kind of looking like it's Tulane and Memphis. It's not the PAC, it's not the AAC.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And especially if the ACC is someone involved with this, like you're alluding to, we don't know. But when you start looking at timing of things, it certainly makes it possible. If these schools have the leverage, and you've just said something that I kind of considered would be true, and that's that Memphis cares about, travel. This is logistics. This is the cost of doing business. I don't think they're the only ones.
Yep.
I think whatever you're saying about it, it's pretty obvious. And I think anyone out of the AAC that the PAC approaches, they're going to think of the same thing. And going forward, they're going to have, if they do this, they're going to have to make some decisions as a conference, which includes votes, on how to deal with it. what's going to be our solution? Are we going to do divisions? Are we not going to do divisions? How are we going to work out scheduling? Who's going to get the best out of that deal? If you're Tulane and you're Memphis and you're sitting there and you have the leverage, why would you step into a situation where you've got these 6 schools who have come out and said, we're working together, we're allowing them to vote with us. It looks kind of like a group that's been talking for a little bit. Why would you go into that with just the 2 of you and then the 6 of them? I just don't think that makes sense. And I know we see stuff that gets said in public, but we also saw the Oregon State athletic director said they're going to start talking in public strategically. So just want to say to folks, what we're seeing said now doesn't necessarily mean that's how it ends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still sticking to my guns that they end up at 12. I know I've seen some, maybe it's 10, maybe that's enough. Like if they say we just can't go past this amount, we've gotten some word from possible partners, we can't go past 10 right now. Maybe that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you're these schools and you're looking at maybe something from the ACC in the future, or you're looking now at the AAC, which maybe is going to make you a deal, because quite frankly, the AAC could push for those deals from Fox and CBS and TNT just as much as the PAC can. And if you get your teams to stay, who's to say that those 4 Mountain West schools, or even including Oregon State and Washington State, don't then decide to just come join you? Like, as I've put out, this to me looks like a battle. Like, this is maybe even a battle for survival. Like, one of these 2. Yeah.
T-Doc says, pure on 3. What does it mean for Memphis and Tulane? The schools have been tied to further Pac-12 expansion, but sources tell On 3 Sports they are not rushing to leave. And that's absolutely correct. Like we just said here at Peek Around the Corner, Tulane is looking for more information. They need more information. Yeah, so this is going to be,
Yeah, I mean, they are going to push this. Like, when I see, the PAC saying, well, this is what we'd like to do. Well, when they very first announced this, I mean, the talk was that they'd add 2. And then they said, well, we're not stuck on any number. And now it's already in just, matter of days, a single-digit amount of days. Now we're already saying, oh, yeah, we like the idea of 4. Okay, well, they're going to continue to have to amend what they're comfortable with. The only thing is, I don't know what a cap is. I don't know at what point in time are you now hurting yourself with the future possible network partners. And my only take on that is, I think as long as whatever you are adding has equivalent value, like you look at all the brands that you add, and if you look at them all in one way or another, it adds equivalent value to the schools you already have, then I think the addition is okay. And I think personally that they can get up to 12, and that's probably where it's maxed out. And anything more than that, you're now starting to do folks favors. I don't know. I'm sure plenty of people will disagree with that, but I think because that would give your Eastern schools an equal voting play, in these decisions that they're going to have to make together. Even if they only go to 10 and there's 4 in the East and 6 in the West, for anything that just requires a majority vote, you've really done nothing for yourself by adding 2 more. Like, they still have the majority of 60-40. So to really get to the point where they would have like an equal say in the conference, I think you're going to have to take 6, and we'll see how that goes. That's my thoughts on that one, though. But I'm really interested to see how this plays out, and hopefully you continue to hear more about it. And we might have a whole lot coming at us.
Before you go, just want to hit upon what we talked about here. I'm going to put up on the screen here. You and I had a discussion on it. FBSschedules.com put it out yesterday. I put out a post saying my own investigation of the 2025 schedules show out of all the power conference schools, there are 14 teams without 12 games scheduled, 11 or less for 2025. 7 of those 14 schools are from the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss is one of the other 7. So one of them was affected by Wake Forest just dropping their game. And I said, this may be statistically significant. Is the ACC conference looking to go to 9 conference games? I also had people tell me that in 2025, North Carolina State and UVA have a 2025 game scheduled as a non-conference game. So literally you can add 2 more schools. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
they have 11 games, right? So now you're up to 9 ACC schools. And then another couple people, and then somebody who says they have information on it, saying that UMass needs to cancel a game. I had 2 people tell me that, 3 people tell me that, and the last one who told me that said, and it looks like it's going to be that they're going to cancel Boston College. That's not official. So that would be 10 ACC schools not having 12 games scheduled. Now that's really statistically significant. So again, is there some sort of is part of these negotiations with ACC and ESPN? Has it gotten to the 9 conference games? We'll expand it from 8 to 9, and this is how you're going to get a little bit more money, and this is how Clemson and Florida State's going to get a little bit more, or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It seems statistically significant. What are your thoughts on it?
Of all the schools that you listed, you actually, I had some internally that I was thinking about that I was going to be watching for something to pop up about them, and you actually answered all of them except for one, and that's Syracuse. Now I kind of really want to see if something happens with Syracuse or not.
Yeah.
But yes, the timing, could be coincidental, but it seems a bit too much. And with everything coming out of there from both sides in the ACC, right? All parties have said that there's negotiations going on. What language they say that in varies, and that often kind of comes from protecting one's own butt. But yes, I think that is definitely showing that there's a likelihood that there will be an increase to 9 games with whatever they're agreeing on with ESPN. And to me, that's a major change. That's not a minor. It's not a small thing. That means, yes, ESPN is opting out despite all of the pushback from people. No, that does not mean ESPN and ACC are done. It just means a new contract. And if that contract has, a stipulation where it takes it from 36 to like 30, 31, that's a big deal. Because that now brings them in line with where the other majors are. And that might be enough for an FSU or a Clemson to say, well, okay, the SEC and the Big Ten aren't really open to this right now. The house situation is extending. We don't know how long that's going to take. We're willing to stick around for a little bit, and by lowering that gore time period, that's another major change. So where I'm going at with that is that this probably require a new gore to be signed. And that might be where something sneaky happens, because you cannot vote to force another school to sign a gore. Could that be where like the North Carolina State and North Carolina sneak out the back door? I don't know. But yeah, I think we're starting to get smoke here. I think that we're starting to see that a major negotiation is happening between the ACC and ESPN, as basically has been said. And yeah, I see the posters putting up there.
Yeah.
If that happens, man, I kind of came up with a little bit of a theory in the future and put some names to it. And if that happens right there, that's every single one of them is covered, which is kind of mind blowing to me, like to see something like that come together. But that's the one to watch right there. I would say if anyone sees something about Syracuse pop up, at least say something. I think that's going to be an indicator right now to look for that one. So, yeah, I think there's something going on there now, and I don't want to go too far in either direction as to what it means. I think people from the various parties do that. I just kind of want to take a middle ground on it, but there's something going on there. We'll probably see soon.
Yep. All right, man. Appreciate the call, and we'll talk later this week. Heading to Iowa versus Minnesota, my friend.
That's right. Go Hawks. We'll talk later.
All right. Thank you, sir. Couple of things. Couple of things. One is, I should have said this earlier, but I'm dedicating this live show September 16th to my uncle Norm Hoffman. I put it on an X earlier today. My uncle and my godparent, Norm Hoffman, who's married to who's married to Ann Pflugar, my dad's youngest sister. My dad was 10 of 11 kids. My father just passed away last September, and Ann is the only living of the 11 kids, and I don't know, she's 90 something. And Norm Hoffman is now, he has entered hospice. So this is dedicated to Norm Hoffman. There are a million stories about Norm Hoffman. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I can say it now. In fact, when I did turn off I took the phone off the hook. So I just want to tell this story here, and then we'll go back to your phone calls. Norm Hoffman, incredibly, this is going to get to sports. This is connected to sports. In fact, Norm Hoffman was one of my sources. And I want to tell you a story in which he was a source of. Now I can say it. Norm Hoffman, incredibly successful man. Unbelievable successful person in pretty much anything he did. He was an engineer. He was the one who invented, I'm not going to be able to explain this correctly, but you know how you're a fighter plane, and it sends out, what is that called? The flares, the shaft or whatever. So if there is a missile, ground-to-air missile, that the stuff being sent out of the airplane, shaft, that's the word. He invented the ignition of that shaft, whatever that means. The ignition of the flare of the shaft. This is way back, guys. This is way back. This is decades and decades and decades and decades ago. So as you can imagine, out there in North Dakota, in a factory, starting in Vietnam, he was quite wealthy. He built, he started the engineering department at the University of North Dakota. He built a wing on a hospital, North Dakota. I put out a tweet earlier today. He bought an island, Coney Island, not New York, but here in Minnesota, a little island off a lake, one of our many thousands of lakes here in Minnesota. He bought an island. It's in the Minneapolis Star and Tribune. He did it, I don't know, 10 years ago. Again, I posted the article. He bought the island from the state because it was so, it was an environmental hazard. He cleaned it up and and paid for it, and he gave it back to the state. Anyways, I could go on and on and on. He was 6 foot. I don't know how tall he was. He was a tall man, and he was a big man. I mean, he was big. Everything about him was big. He's still with us. He's just in hospice. Everything about him is big. Incredible personality. Unbelievable low voice. He came into the room and he owned the room. He owned it. He was a big, massive, he was a money perch at the University of North Carolina. So I put out, so he talked to me on a few stories. One of them, we were in the living room. We were across from each other. He said, "Great." And he told me a story, and I got the okay to put it out, that North Dakota and the Big Ten were talking with each other about North Dakota becoming a member of the Big Ten Conference. This was back in 2017. Of course, I did not attach his name to it, because you don't do that, obviously. But this Norm Huffman is a massive, massive donor and really good friends with President Kennedy at the time. President Kennedy of North Dakota was a political figure in the state of Minnesota. Norm Huffman was one of his, rich guys, whatever. So I put this information out. And of course, I got raked over the coals. One of the people I got raked over the coals was, right there in public, right on Twitter, was the announcer of North Dakota hockey. And I also got raked over the coals by one of their main beat writer. And I said, well, you know what? I got this from a really good source. Blah, 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 blah. You're just blah, 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 blah. They went after me. I can tell this story now. I went back to Norm and I said, can I tell these guys privately? Well, go ahead. And so in a DM, they did not block me. In a DM, I said, this is where I got it. This is Norm Huffman. I'm his nephew. This is the information. I'm not even going to ask an apology from you. Just don't do it again. And one guy never said anything back, and the other guy said sorry. So, in a direct private message. So I just and now that he's battled the good fight, he's really up there in age. He's had such an impact on the University of North Dakota, the hockey program, the university, the hospital, the state. He got indicted by the federal government one time. And if you get indicted by the federal government, you lose 99% of the time. The judge threw out the case and basically went after the federal government. He was absolutely railroaded. It's a famous case out there. He was targeted, whatever. But So he was a big man, impactful man. So God bless you, Norm Huffman. And but he's still with us. He's being taken care of. So this live show is dedicated to Norm Huffman. You can go ahead and Google him and you'll. Anyways, and one other thing. I just wanted to put this up here. Again, this is hockey. I know hardly any of you are interested in hockey, but the CCHA coaches poll, St. Thomas, St. Thomas is predicted to win the conference. And I just wanted to throw that up there because St. Thomas was a Division III program for decades. Most of you know the story. The conference kicked them out because they were so dominant. St. Thomas, I call them the Little Notre Dame. The Little Notre Dame. Now they're in FCS football. They're dominant in the Pioneer Conference. The hockey is going to take off. And keep an eye on the basketball program because the Big East is going to come a-knocking. I don't know if it's after UConn leaves or before UConn leaves or if UConn doesn't leave, whatever. St. Thomas is going to be part of Big East basketball someday. If you don't know, St. Thomas is in the Twin Cities here in Minnesota. Big market. And they have money up the yin-yang. Money up the yin-yang. Little private school that is so focused on sports, it's ridiculous. So I just want to throw that out there. Okay, it's a small university, but it's a little bit different than those other small universities. Let's put it that way. It's 10 years from now, they're going to be battling for FCS championship in football. They might do that in the next 5 years, but probably in the next 10 years. In hockey, they're going to be at the top. In baseball, they got a great baseball program. In basketball, they're going to be in the Big East at some point. Yes. They're going to the NCHC in hockey. It's Tony, St. Thomas is a monster. It's a monster of a program for a small private college. Very small. And their campus is as big as my studio. But they got money up there. So, okay, we'll go back to your phone calls. First of all, Kenneth Maynard, thank you so much for the super chat. Wyoming would be a good travel partner for Air Force in the AAC. Nothing more American than a cowboy. You're absolutely correct on that. I have not heard that. Obviously, what is going to happen to the other Mountain West schools that don't get picked up? Are they going to entrench themselves? Are they going to try to form another G conference? So we're going to have G6 conferences, or are they going to scatter to the wind? And if they're going to scatter to the wind, where's Wyoming going to go? I would predict the MAC over the AAC for Wyoming. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Thank you for the super chat, Kenneth Maynard. I have not heard anything on that angle. Thank you so very much. Sounds like Colorado College, small, rich, and big on hockey. Yeah. The problem is they're really good in basketball. And they're going to be really good in football at the lower level. And they're going to have a really good baseball team. So they're putting money in everything. Sorry about that. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1336. 1-333-763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, open up your notifications, smash the like button if you like our content. If you want to support this channel through a donation, hit the $sign, make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. I thank you guys for all the support. Kerry Gold Nose, Terry Kane, Ryan Willie, John Till, Kenneth Maynard, thank you guys. So give me a call right now. The phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. You can talk about anything in college football, anything at all. You want to talk about your team? We are going to be talking about the games tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the games coming up. I did put out a tweet. I did go over the games. I think they're really interesting. I'll do it right now. I'll go real quick. If I can find it. Here. Illinois versus Nebraska. This is Big Ten. Michigan versus USC. Iowa versus Minnesota. Northwestern versus Washington. 4 Big Ten games. 4 Big Ten conference games. In week 4, the Big Ten conference play is cranking up next weekend. And then we get to the ACC, Stanford versus Syracuse. That's a Friday night game. North Carolina State versus Clemson. That's that night. Georgia Tech versus Louisville. A very important game in the ACC. Very important game when it comes to the standings in the ACC. Some sneaky important ACC conference game lined up for week 4. Then the SEC, Tennessee versus Oklahoma, is the game on the SEC slate for week 4. Sooners have their first mighty SEC challenge. Should be a fantastic atmosphere in Norman. No question about it. Big Week 4 Big 12 slate of games. And we'll get to that in a moment.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricanes, the Miami, 62-0. They keep a rolling. I think they're healthy. I think they're getting some of their offensive linemen back. Holy smokes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, hopefully Cam Ward's hands grow a half inch in the next few weeks or so to keep the ball in his hands. You know, I don't know. There's some magic beans for that. Maybe there's a UFO that could come over and beam him some bigger hands just to keep
There's
him
a
safe.
lot of stuff going on in the UFO stuff. But yes, Cam Ward, his small hands have not affected him yet.
Yeah, for sure. It's starting to get into, well, I mean, we thought that Florida might be real, but most of us suspected not. So
Yeah.
those games are still what they are. You know, you're only really judging him and the team right now that they're doing what they're supposed to do against the teams they're supposed to
And
do.
beyond. They're doing great. Yes, sir.
You know, these are teams that the last 5 years Miami would have still probably won, and it would have been 35-21 kind of things where you never even see the freshmen playing. You know, but they're playing South Florida this weekend, who did great against Alabama for like 3.5 quarters. You know, we'll see whether or not that turns into anything. You know, for me, the games that are the most interesting is like, you know, the Utah versus Oklahoma State is going to be a great game. So have that one right? Yeah, Utah, Oklahoma State, and you know, USC and Michigan. I'm down on Michigan, but it's still going to be interesting to see USC and Michigan playing in Big Ten games. So there's some theoretically better games on the schedule this week, though there were some interesting games this last one. And, you know, thoughts out to your family and your uncle. Sounds like he was a pretty interesting guy. I can see where you get some of the DNA from then.
Yeah. Well, he's not but he's married to my dad's sister, so.
That's just understood.
He's a very successful guy, so no, we don't have any shared DNA.
Yeah.
He's not Norm the Cooler. I'm Greg the Cooler. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I know you went through some of that. How did you end up doing this week? Were you like
6
500?
and 6 again. 6 and 6 in the and the PATC community went 3-9. So we both have the same record: 13 wins, 21 losses against the spread. Absolutely brutal.
Well, it's a spread. It's not like you were just botching it completely on the pick side.
Yeah.
So I am a little bit curious, just a little bit more, follow up on a selfish perspective on the Miami information. And just one thing you said a little bit later about, obviously the road, you never know what's going to happen. Things can change, but Miami's on its own island. But then you said, like, as an example, well, what if they stop at 20? So what it seems to me, if I'm putting the things you're saying together, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is that would make me think that if North Carolina and North Dakota happen, it's a better indication that the Big Ten is not going to stop at 20. If Miami is not really affected by anything that's going on with the other teams, that if they're on their own island, like, what does that mean if, two more teams come in? Will they? Because if they were affected and Big Ten stopped there, that means that they're not on its own island.
Well, what I mean by an island, I don't mean they're okay. What I mean by they're on their own, I mean there's nothing that's really. I'm not using it in the way that I would typically use that phrase. Like,
understood.
They are not as affected by the dominoes falling around them as everybody else is. That's what I mean by an island unto themselves. In regards to the number 20, I don't think the Big Ten is stuck at 20. But I'm just saying there may be like a situation that happens, which is a long shot, in which the Big Ten would get their two top targets and say, well, maybe we'll stop it. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just throwing out,
right.
There's, but
yeah, you're going out, you're giving yourself the understandable out in a world that's full of chaos.
Yeah, but all the other scenarios for BTM, all of it includes Miami, because they're going to get all they're the Big Ten. Yeah, they're just not going to get any pushback. That's their biggest. Miami. We talk about
welcome to the Miami world.
Well, we talk about third-party talks, right? Well,
right.
Nothing official, no lawyers, da 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 da. But Miami knows where they sit, where they stand. They got to the AAU. Well, who voted them in? Right. The Big Ten, all the school. I mean, they know Fox. They know that Fox. They know, and they're learning, or they already knew before I knew. The boosters, that whole segment, which BTM knows, better than any. They're just not. They're not even close to a no vote on any of the people who hold a stake in the decision. So he thinks they are the one that, he thinks it's going to happen. And if he thinks it's going to happen, for me, it's incredibly significant.
Yeah, for sure. And I respect your sources and how everything is sort of played out in its different ways. I guess, and I'm not one of the people who sit there and go, well, because you said it was going to be sunny one day and then later on everything changed. It means you were wrong in the information.
Well, I'll take the L. I mean, I'll take the L on this. No problem, because BTM does not put stuff out, and so I'll take the L. I think everyone's just
it's not even an L. I'm not even trying to hand it out. It's more curious of like how you see the sequencing of 3 months ago to the new information that you're receiving, because it was pretty firm before, and I'm not even doubting that. It's just interesting how this stuff is so evolving, and every time you think that there's somewhat of a good handle on stuff, that just like a Hollywood script, it takes a weird turn.
Yeah. Well, a lot of what I said was the chatter behind the curtain, right?
Right.
This is BTM. So, and the chatter behind the curtain too. The chatter behind the curtain has always been, Miami is definitely a target. BTM
Right,
is
for
just
sure.
putting it. BTM is saying this is something that everyone's gonna support. So that's all I can say. There's other stuff I'm holding because
Yeah, of course, understood.
so
Nothing's going to
so
happen.
people can
imminently
take it
anyway.
however they want it. I'm here to get bashed. Let it rip. That's what I'm here for.
No bashing. It's just
No, not
watching
from
the
you,
soap
but
opera play out.
anybody can freely come on here and give me a call.
I think most people would rather you update everyone with the information than hold on to
Yeah.
thoughts where your information has changed for fear of being, proven right or proven wrong in any specific instance. So, well, good luck to you and Immaculate. I'm not going to take a side on there. You both have disappointed me with your team.
You know what?
And picks so far this year.
You know what, Rock and Rant? You know what? You and Immaculate and that Buckeye mowing vision and Big 12 Mafia, BYU and that Wild Utah Utes and all you all, you know what? You can all go on that Hawkeye side. All of you. All of you. You still ain't going to stop the Golden Gophers, baby. Sky-U-Ma, row the boat.
I'm not taking anyone's side. I'm just gonna get popcorn and see whoever dies, kind of thing.
Well, you know what? I'm
I
going to
just
be
want to see a
crying.
good game.
There will be tears shed either way, victory or defeat.
For sure.
The fat guy from Minnesota is going to be shedding tears next Saturday night. So please join us for the watch party.
Well, for your sake, I hope you're singing a song in a major chord, but I fear you might be singing in a minor chord. So,
Okay.
Have a good one, Greg.
All right, man.
Be good. Bye.
Appreciate it. Great call by Rock and Rant. Eric Ruby, remaining G5 elites, consolidating is long overdue. Congratulations, Eric Ruby, on the UCF win. You and I talked about it in the chat. How exciting that game was going to be. It was. Hoover and Harvey, man, they put on a show. UCF pulled out a big win. I don't think we've heard the last of TCU. I don't think we've heard the last of either one of those two teams. Big 12 opponents, man, you've got to lock it in. You got to put that chin lock in because UCF and TCU are going to be coming at you. Thank you, Eric Ruby, for the super chat. I do appreciate your generosity, and I do agree with you. There is going to be some consolidation going on in the G5. We're seeing a little bit now. I think we're going to see a lot of it 4 or 5 years from now. It wasn't a fair catch. It wasn't. It was an illegal hand signal. It was an illegal hand signal. Had nothing to do with a fair catch. He waved his hand. Can't do it. Can't do it. You can't do that and advance the ball. You can wave your hand all you want, but after you wave your hand as a punt returner in an unnatural way, you can't advance the ball. It was the perfect call. Perfect call. Let me see. Hold on. Mick Stevens, Mr. TCU Horned Frog, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it, my man. Appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity, Horned Frogs. I just talked about it. Great game. Great game. We have not heard the last from the Horned Frogs. Thought it looked very natural. I think he was swatting a bug. You know, Ryan Brooks, he was waving by the defender. Well, let me just give you a little bit of a heads up. Let me give you a little bit of a heads up. For the first time in a long time, the Minnesota Golden Gophers have a punt returner that you should be scared of. The true freshman, high 4-star Koi Perich. The recruit that it came down to the Buckeyes and the Gophers. Ryan Day went into his house and it was a battle, and thank goodness he stayed with his hometown, homeschool, University of Minnesota. He has been electric. He's already has an interception. He's already had a great punt return. Our punt returner, first punt returner, he's injured out for the whole year, so it's going to be number 3 Koi Perch time. So finally, the Gophers have some threat against the Hawkeyes in the punt return game. We shall see. Okay, I guess we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 19 minutes. Before we go, please subscribe, smash the like button, and open up your notifications. We could come on live again tonight if there's breaking news out there. If there's breaking news, or if I have some news to break, I've done that before. Come on live here. So open up your notifications. Make sure you subscribe. And if you've liked our content today, please smash the like button. If you did not like our content today, smash the thumbs down button. Smash, smash, smash away. I want to thank you all for joining us. The donations, the incredible comments in the chat room, and of course, the phone line. Beautiful once again. We're coming on live tomorrow, so buckle up, brace for impact. There's a lot of stuff going on. Lots of stuff going on in the college football world. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about week 4 games. And then Wednesday we're going to make our selections against the spread. And Greg the Gold is finally going to make an appearance. I pray. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.